We're super excited to be here tonight, so thank you for joining us. I just want to go over a few things, considerations before we get started. So in this evening's meeting, we're going to be on a Zoom webinar platform. Presenters are going to have slides on the majority of the screen, but they'll also be seen on the right hand of your screen. As an attendee, you will not appear on the screen, and you also do not have audio capability. However, questions are great, and we're really looking forward to hearing from you. There is a Q&A feature that's in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You're welcome to enter a question at any time. The content from today's meeting will be shared after the meeting on Facebook as well as our website. We will also be sending out a survey after the meeting to those of you in attendance and look for feedback through that. There is one final thing that we're really excited about, which is a poll, and that comes toward the end of the meeting. There'll be instructions around the poll, and we're really looking for your input. I'll run through this very full agenda quickly, and then we'll get started. First, we're going to have our director for the Michigan Central Development, Mary Culler. She's also the president of the Ford Fund. Mary's going to give everyone an update on the current project. Next, we'll hear from Rich Bardelli. Rich leads construction at the station, and he's going to tell us all about what's happening down there. Pamela Alexander from the Ford Fund is going to share some community updates around the amazing things that the Ford Fund has been doing this year. And next we'll have James Courtney. He's a newer member to our team. We're super excited to have James with us. He's going to share a few more community engagement events coming up this year. Finally, you'll see me again. I'll be leading the Q&A section at the end of the meeting. And so without any more, I'll turn it over to Mary.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. This is actually now our second virtual meeting because we had one earlier today at 1 o'clock. And so it was really great to get the questions and to hear the feedback. So as Julie said, please make sure that you participate. Before I get started though, I really want to reflect on the changes in the world since we last met. COVID-19 has devastated so many communities, including Detroit. And I know many of you have been impacted. Some of you may have lost loved ones, and we just want to express our sympathy and offer our condolences. This has been a really difficult time. In conjunction with that, of course, we've had to watch the tragic killings of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, and learned of the death of Breonna Taylor. These are just a few names on a very, very long list. And, you know, I think as we all reflect on these moments, it's important that we come together and that we listen and that we learn. And more importantly, really start to take steps to really change this horrible tragedy and this dynamic. Bill Ford, our executive chairman, recently wrote a letter along with Jim Hackett, our CEO, to our employees at Ford Motor Company. And he said, you know, that we're not interested in superficial actions. This is our moment to lead from the front and fully commit to creating the fair and just inclusive culture that everyone deserves. So I clearly, Ford stands in solidarity with our Black community and all who have been disenfranchised. We want to take concrete steps to move forward. So thank you for everybody who has really thought about this issue and is reflecting on it. It's an important one. But tonight we want to talk about the project. There has been a lot of progress, which is exciting. Our last community meeting was in September, and we had a lot of attendees there. And to be frank, that time seemed like a different world. It's hard to believe that we were all together in a room, not worried about social distancing. And while the virus has impacted our project in some ways, I'm really excited to share with all of you that that we're still really progressing well, and that we've had some delays on the book depository, but that the overall project is still planned for 2022. And you're going to hear some great updates from Rich Bardelli on the construction. I clearly, when we were together, we had an opportunity to have you weigh in on some of your priorities around the great infrastructure outside of the buildings. We talk a lot about what's happening inside the buildings, but one of the things that I'm really excited about is just all this infrastructure that's going to get improved and created, not only to build this innovation district that I'm going to talk about, but clearly also to be for you all. We want the community to be able to come and enjoy it. So we did have an opportunity to on 3 areas, which we called the Triangle, the Verner Gateway, and the platform behind the station. And in addition to your responses at the meeting, we had these boards in the information center. And so we got a lot of great feedback. And I have to say that we had some terrific ideas, everything from people wanting a lot of public art in these spaces to wanting to make sure that these spaces are accessible all year round. Clearly with the winters in Michigan, it's not all about the summer, and that you want to see a lot of activity and programming. And so we couldn't agree with you more. And I want to make sure that we come back to you in future meetings with some of these ideas implemented in our work. So you'll see that in the future. I'd like to take a minute just to ground everyone again on our vision for the project. It's really important that we understand that this is about creating an innovation district, which is exciting. The station is obviously front and center, but it is really about creating an entire innovation center where we will have a lot of people coming from around not only Detroit, but around the world, hopefully, to be a part of this and partner with us to create this. We know that it's going to take a lot of partnering and a lot of work together because this is something that frankly has never really been done. And we're excited to be building the future of mobility here in Detroit. We obviously want to make sure that we think about the heritage and the beautiful aspect of the neighborhoods that are already there. And we've talked a lot about this, and we've certainly heard a lot from you about the importance of this, and we agree. And so we certainly want to ensure that anything we do values that and also brings economic opportunity, sustainability, and vitality to this community. So as we look at what we've been doing since we last met, I want to remind everybody that we are definitely trying to build some density and some activity around the station. And you know, clearly we have to group the activity together in order to do that. We want to co-create a neighborhood along with all the beautiful neighborhoods that are already there, that we can make sure that we're connecting to all of these places. So it's not just sitting as an island unto itself. And obviously we want to make sure that we bring that density by moving potentially, well, we're definitely going to move the building over to the train station, the 3rd building. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Because last year, when we spoke about the project, we talked a lot about a site called the Brass Factory site. And, you know, if you're in the neighborhood, you'll see that site as completely, the building's been demolished, it's been completely remediated, so it's been cleaned up, there's a new fence around it, and actually we also put in a brand new sidewalk. We felt that was really important. And so that site was the original site for our 3rd building. But as we've discussed in previous meetings, in order to create that density, we really feel it's important to bring that 3rd building over next to the train station. So it is now going to go west of the station, as we discussed in the last meeting. It's where all the trailers currently are, where all the sort of the staging is for the construction of the train station. And we are kicking off the design plans for that 3rd building soon. And we'll certainly be coming back to you to share more details about that. But I wanted to remind everybody about the density need and the importance of doing that around the train station. But as I said earlier, one of the most exciting opportunities is frankly all this infrastructure that's around the buildings. And you know, we want to make sure that we are making sure that those are a fabric of the community, because this is not, even though Ford owns these locations, we want them open to the public. And so we have been working very hard to figure out how we make these spaces work for this innovation mobility district, but also are open to the public in a really exciting way. So when we think about the back of the station and that big platform that currently right now is just huge, big piece of concrete next to the railroad tracks. We want this to be an opportunity for testing and creating what we call micro mobility solutions. These are the smaller mobility solutions that perhaps help you get around for shorter distances. And then we want to make sure that it's all very agile so that as we look at the innovations that we're proposing here, that the technology remains current. And that's a really difficult thing to do, but we are working with a lot of experts to talk about how we do that to ensure that the technology and the innovation stays relevant. But more importantly, we want it to be a fantastic place for the community and for the neighborhoods. It has to be the place that connects the neighborhoods. As you know, the station sits in a way that's very disenfranchising to a lot of the neighborhoods. And so this particular area is going to be a great connector, not only to Mexican Town and some of the areas that make it hard to get up there now, but also to the riverfront, because as we've discussed, there is a fantastic opportunity to connect to the May Creek Greenway that the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy is doing. But more importantly, when we look at creating the ecosystem, we want to make sure that it includes startups and innovators and, like I said, all the best minds, because this has never really been done. And we're excited to be partnering with many folks to think through it. But we also want to make sure that the train station has the retail that you all have talked about, the community opportunities and the community spaces that are so important to you. And so I want you to know that there's a lot of discussion going on around that. And while we don't have a lot to share about that now because the spaces in the train station and in the book depository are being thought through, these are absolutely front and center aspects to what we want to accomplish. But as I said, partnerships are going to be a really integral part of our community here. And just as we see partnerships with the community moving forward, we also want to look at who's doing the best in this area around innovation. And so today, actually, we talked with the community folks who joined us at 1. They were the first to hear that we are actually collaborating with an organization called New Lab out of New York. And what's really exciting about New Lab is they have a very proven track record in New York to bring together innovators and entrepreneurs in a dynamic hub. And that's really what we want to try to do here, especially in the book depository. But before we get to that place, we thought it would be fantastic to work with them on what we're calling 2 studios. One will be around a big macro business problem that needs to be solved. Maybe that is about how do you actually charge vehicles in the city in a really interesting and easy way. But what I think is most exciting is we also want to have a civic studio. And the civic studio is going to put the community front and center and really think about what are some of those problems that we know we need to address from a community perspective. For example, like getting people to transportation, making sure they have access and wayfinding to the best ways to get where they need to go. And so while we're in the very early days of this partnership, we are clearly very excited about what the opportunity holds, especially around that civic studio. And I would really encourage you, if you want to hear more about this, tomorrow, Julie Rossini, who you saw at the beginning of our virtual meeting, is going to be hosting a fireside chat with the head of New Lab to talk more about this project. So please consider joining them and register at the site that you see on the screen. The other exciting news that I want to share is that over quite a while, we have worked with a variety of people to think about how do we want to brand this particular project? What kind of symbol do you want to see on the website and other places? And so I'm glad to be sharing with you the branding that we have come up with for Michigan Central. And if you look at this brand, there are a lot of sort of hidden nuance aspects to it that are kind of fun, probably more inside baseball than anything, but clearly when you look at the M, there's a real tie to the arches of the station. When you look at the C, there's a sense of movement and you can almost see a wheel in that C. And even just the logo itself is reminiscent of some of the train stations and transportation hubs around the country, kind of like a metro type brand that really harkens back to the fact that this train station was a hub of train activity. So we're very excited about the branding. We think it's simple, but there's, like I said, a lot of meaning behind some of these features. And so you're going to begin to see this branding on some of the signage around the area and obviously on a lot of our social sites where you're going to be getting more information. So with that, I just want to end with this slide, which basically shows you on a broad level all the things that we are working on. And the ones in white are obviously the ones that Ford is taking the lead on. The ones in blue are those that are being led by others, but that we have a real opportunity to partner with them to ensure that it all goes together. And so when you look at this, you see the book depository that Rich is going to give you some updates on, and then you see the train station, and then of course, as we discussed, this building 3 that has now moved over next to the station. So we're really excited about the progress. I think we're seeing a lot of interest by other partners like New Lab, as we just discussed, and I really want to thank you for joining us. And so Rich is going to take you on a tour of the construction aspect, and it's always fun because he always has great pictures. So Rich, thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks a lot, and welcome everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us virtually to give you an update. It's been a challenging year with the COVID virus and things that were going on, but we are really full steam ahead, especially at the train station. You know, and also we've been working since the end of last year, fixing structural issues and, you know, doing the work on the exterior of the building and cleaning. And as always, there's still work inside on demo. So, so a lot going on in the building there. As you can see, this is right above the, if you remember inside the building, the Gustavino vaulted roof ceiling inside the waiting room. You know, a lot of structural work going on in there, making sure that we can get all the repairs done. It's a really intricate area, so a lot happening there to make sure that we're ready to get the roof in and get that done. And you can see we've now started to put up scaffolding in there so that we can get to all of those tiles that need to get cleaned and replaced and worked on. So again, there's about another year's worth of work there just to get the tiles fixed in that area. This is the men's waiting room. I think the really cool thing here is when you drive by, you'll see those big wood paneled old windows that have been in there forever are now being taken out, and the restoration and the window repairs has started. So we're really getting into now being able to see how brilliant these rooms are going to be with these huge windows and what it must have been like back when it was in its heyday. So it's really starting to get exciting to see how this is going to work out and what we'll be able to do. On the exterior, we talked about the brickwork, and you know, there was a lot of rust. We call it rust jacking, right where the building was infiltrated by water and the steel started to come apart. So a lot of the corners of the building needed to be replaced, and this brick needed to be replaced. So again, when you go by the building, you'll see these corners being done. We're pretty much done with the west side of the building. And in the coming months, we'll be cleaning it, and you'll never be able to tell the difference between the new brick and the old brick. So keep an eye out for that. And along the front, we're taking these huge limestone bricks or blocks off the building, and ultimately about 3,000 of them will come down, starting from the east side to the west side. So you can really get a look at how the building was built, even from the street, which is really interesting, and you can just see how these huge blocks will come off. Where we can replace them or redo them, we'll clean them. Some of them will have to be replaced, and a lot of that's being done already, and you know, from where they were quarried in Indiana. So you'll be seeing that happening over the next few months also. The next portion, you know, Mary talked about the mobility platform, which is, you know, attached to the train station, and we call it on our construction side our train shed, because this is where everybody went underneath the train Trainstred to come up to the train tracks. And this area was environmentally impacted, and it's 100 years old and just needs to be cleaned up. And so for us to get a head start on this while we're doing the design and understanding what's happening was pretty important. So starting in a few weeks, we'll be getting our contractors on site to start the cleaning there. The good thing here is that we're putting together, just like we did over at the brass factory, if you remember, an environmental protection plan. We'll have daily air monitoring going on, and we'll be able to we'll update our website, and we'll make sure that everybody knows what's going on. And then you'll also have the ability to call the hotline if you see anything or if you have questions. The good thing here, or different thing here, is that we're not tearing a building down. We're really cleaning it up, and so we don't have the impact that you would see normally that we did over the brass factory. Here it's mostly cleaning and trucks coming in and out, normal truck traffic that you would normally see while we were doing our construction today. So you'll see that coming up in the next few weeks. And then the book depository, again, you can see from the outside when the work that we've been doing. Again, Mary had talked about that we're moved this build date out 6 months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So, but we've also started a lot of the demo work and remediation inside the building, so to make sure that we can get ahead of that work and have that work completed by the end of 2021. Again, a lot of really good stuff going on in there as we're moving forward. And this is just a quick little floor by floor as we start that a lot of our design work that's been going on currently and will be completed by the end of the year. And really, it's driving toward how people move through the building, having great daylighting coming, so you can see that we're adding a skylight on the roof, some roof activation, and then making sure that through the core of the building, because these floor plates are so large, to make sure we have good daylighting through the building. And these are just some photos of demolition in progress. It was pretty much a mess. It was wet. We had over 300,000 gallons of water pumped out of this building in its basement, and a lot of walls were coming down and things like that. So we're really getting to a place where it's going to be ready for construction at the beginning of 2021. Again, a few more. You can see how we had to come through, and on the far right here, where it's starting to get cleaned up and getting ready for us. The other thing that we're working on are the parking decks. Again, parking deck 1, which is down here, is the first one that we'll be working on. That design is started, and this construction will start at the beginning of the year and will be part of the opening of the book depository. So we'll have a good connection, along with the parking deck being connected to May Creek. So there's a lot of great things that'll happen that'll connect the parking area with May Creek, with our mobility platform, and the book depository. And then as we're getting through our district plan in building 3, moving it from the brass factory site over to create this density, we also moved the parking deck to ensure that we have everything really contained in this area, and the ability to park the individuals that will be housed in all of these buildings and the activations. So quick timeline update. Again, we started the design on the book depository at the beginning of this year and started working through that. The design will be done by the end of the year. We'll be starting construction at the beginning of 21 and ready for employees to be there right at the beginning of 2022. And you can see the parking deck. That design just started a few weeks ago, and we'll have it under the same construction timeline as the book depository. Michigan Central's timeline hasn't changed. We did stop construction for a few months, and we have about 2.5 years left. So we've been doing a lot of work to make sure we can contain that timing, and it looks like we're okay to be doing that. Again, interior restoration and roof and waiting room restoration, all of that stuff is getting underway. So a lot going there, and you'll start seeing a lot of transformation on the exterior. And then the third building, again, we'll start that design soon as we start to get the concepts and understanding. And then the construction will start at mid of 2020, and it's about an 18-month construction period. So from mid 2022 to the end of 23, we'll have that building done. So a quick update on workforce development. Something that we're really proud of. A bunch of teams came together within the community of construction, the city, and everybody to really put this together. The Workforce Development Institute, the building trades, all came together because there were all these things that leveraged training, and having this part of this fast track program was really integral to what they were doing, and it's been great. So the program, we came back to you in February and sort of gave a quick overview of this, and we'll identify 25 individuals coming up here in August, and get that program started in September. So really great. There's the timeline really, and the one thing that we really want to make sure that we get out to the community now is that on July 6th, Detroit at Work will have the ability, which again is just a week and a little over a week from now, to get enrolled to the program. But with the COVID stuff, we had to make sure, we were going to start this program earlier, but we had to have it linger out till September. So we used existing candidates in the Access for All in Michigan Building Trades to be chosen for this, that have already been through the Detroit at Work program. So it's really critical that if you want to be in the trades, please get signed up at Detroit at Work. You'll get in the training program so that we can be ready for you in January, that you'll be complete, and we can start to have you ready for a February 2021 second cohort. As these start moving forward, we'll every 4 months we'll have new cohorts, and as buildings, the other buildings come online, we're hoping that we'll be able to even move more people through. So it's very, very exciting that we're able to start this. Another great thing is the commitment that we've had to workforce development around the GDYT, the Growing Detroit Young Talent program. As part of our CBO commitment, and we have that commitment of $1 million. And this year, there's a $500,000 that has been earmarked for the program. 312 summer interns have been allocated to this, and it's really, really a great thing. 12 of those are part of a program through GDYT and RAM Construction on the Masonry program. They started this program last year, and we were able to move it along again, where real jobs are being realized from this program when we're done, and that'll be starting up in about a couple weeks. That these 12 individuals will be selected, and again, working to make sure that they're selected from our impact area. And then the other program that GDYT has is virtual internships that they handle, and as part of that, our commitment of the $500,000 is to help support those 300 of those individuals. And the really cool thing is that 272 of those youth were from our impact area. So I'm going to turn it over now to Pam Alexander to talk about community engagement. Thanks again.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Hopefully everyone can. I'm going to take you through some of the Ford Fund initiatives in terms of what we've been doing in the community over the past few months. As Mary mentioned, the world very much changed with the global pandemic and COVID. So I want to talk to you first about some of the initiatives that we took. Obviously, when COVID hit, we immediately started listening. As Mary talked about actions, we were listening and acting based on the need in the community. Our immediate info said that people needed basic needs, food, but they also needed transportation services and ability and mobility solutions to get the resources that they needed. You can see some of the things that we did during the initial response. PPE delivery, food box distributions. We had a special program just in the Corktown area where the restaurants were provided funding to provide meals to Henry Ford Hospital for the emergency room and for healthcare workers, which obviously helped the healthcare workers and also the restaurants in and around Corktown. We immediately deployed our Ford vehicle shuttles, our employee shuttles, and also our Lincoln preferred driver, our Lincoln Mobility Solutions. They chipped in right away as well. And they were helping to make deliveries for local restaurants to customers so that the restaurants could, of course, stay as busy as possible to minimize the economic impact. 39 trips to the Salvation Army for cleaning supplies. And of course, as many of you may be aware, we provided face shields to every EMT, police officer, and firefighter in the city of Detroit. Let's go to the next slide, please. And then, of course, you're all familiar with our FRAKE that's just down the street, of course, from the MCS development. We had to close the FRAKE due to COVID, with the exception of food delivery, which we took curbside. As you can see, just out of that one facility, we had 300,000 pounds of food that have been delivered out of the FRAKE for people. It's a scheduled appointment and it's a drive up for people who are registered members and are able to get that through Gleaners. We also provided $500,000, and this is just, of course, in the first few weeks, to United Way, Gleaners, Cass Community Services, and other really critical organizations. Again, getting back to that support that was needed in the community because of the sudden nature and the quick and the significant impact of COVID. And then we had a matching program where we were matching grants and still are to many organizations that are local. Can we go to the next slide, please? These are just some of the photos. You can see in the middle one, some of the firefighters, I believe, receiving some of the PPE and the face shields, which are very, very important. You can see Carmen on the top right, that's loading up some of the shuttles. We found that an increasing demand for people to have the food delivery from the FRAKE brought to their home because they couldn't get there for delivery. So that's one of our employee shuttles making that delivery. And you see on kind of on the bottom left, one of our Lincoln drivers delivering food to the ER at Henry Ford Hospital. Some great photos, and we were really excited to be able to do that. The top photo is also on the left is some of the restaurant meals that were provided to Henry Ford Hospital. Next slide, please. So the good news is that the FRAKE is now open for essential services only, those defined as legal, accounting, and food, starting June 22nd. It is by appointment only. An additional program we're bringing, we have the Fresh Market Pantry, started on June 18th. It's every Thursday. For that, it's in partnership with Eastern Market. There is no appointment needed. And just in the first day, we served 194 households, a total of almost 15,000 pounds of food. For those of you who may not have stopped by the FRAKE yet, it's located at 2826 Bagley. The website is on there. It can be reached via fordfund.org/FRAKE Southwest. And then the phone number, and then Carmen Mattia, who of course is our manager of the FRAKE, their contact information is there as well. We're really excited to have the FRAKE back open for critical services to serve the community. And again, if you need any additional information or want to look up an organization to try and figure out how you can make an appointment for those services, it's via the Ford Fund website. And with that, I'll pass it off to James to talk about some of the MCS community engagement activities.
Thanks, Pam. I think everyone can hear me. Hi, I'm James Courtney. I work on the MCS Michigan Central Development team as an external engagement team member. and I am going to be talking a little bit about some upcoming events and other engagement opportunities, but wanted to take a moment to talk about 3 really cool events that you may or may not have participated in last year. Corktown, Aglow, Halloween, as well as a Tour Detroit. We really want to get out and meet with everyone in person and really celebrate the community, but planned events, especially large in-person gatherings, they may not happen due to state guidelines and rules around that due to the pandemic. But we are still committed to being involved at whatever level that those activities do happen. So stay tuned, and we will definitely keep this group and everyone else updated as we start to get going with that. Next slide, please. Thanks. Another kind of COVID-related update is our information center. If you have been there on Rosa Parks, it is closed until further notice. But even though it's closed, we will be giving updates via graphics and digital signage that you will see that Michigan Central logo that Mary showed earlier. So it'll still be active, and when it does open back up to people occupying the space, we have a couple of ideas around how we can bring people in to really have deep conversations and neighborhood meetings and ways to engage further and get really deeper into some of the issues that may be in the community. One I want to highlight is listening and learning sessions, which those are going to be around Michigan Central and the development. And what we'll do is really get deep and understand what you think is needed and what you would like to see. So look out for that in the future. The City One Challenge, if you recall, last year we wrapped that up. This one's dear to me. I was on that team when we worked through it. Is a mobility solutions program where it's really a community-based, community-sourced solutions program where we try to understand what the issues around mobility are for a specific community, and then source ideas from that community. In this case, we had 3 winners from the 2019 challenge, where they were all awarded $250,000. That was originally supposed to start earlier this summer, but due to COVID-19, it's getting pushed back a bit. So what you'll see is some of these start to roll out later in the summer, early fall, and then those programs will then last into 2021. There will also be a few opportunities to engage directly with the local projects, the Mercy Education Project, as well as the art project with Southwest Fred and Don. So stay tuned, and as we start to get those rolling, we'll definitely let you know so you can participate. And in the continued spirit of community-driven solutions, we want to get your feedback on how we can spend some funds that we've identified to be spent on some grants. So in our CBO agreement, we have about $2 million related to workforce and community programs. You may recall back in 2019, we spent $250,000 to celebrate culture and heritage. This year, because of everything that's going on and to support the current environment, we want your input on how to allocate this year's $250,000 grant. So what you'll see is a poll will pop up on your screen. And when you see that poll, you can just select the top priority that you believe is the most important, and then we'll tally all those results. And we'll also compile those results with the earlier session to get a better understanding of what people are interested in. So I'll read it out loud for those of you who may have dialed in so you know what we're talking about. Where should CBO community grant funding be directed this year to bring the most benefit to the largest number of residents and businesses? And the options are youth education, entrepreneurship and small business support, transportation access and connections across neighborhoods, and the last one is access to internet and digital services. So just select the one that you feel is the highest priority, and then just hit submit at the bottom, and we'll take a few moments to complete that. Have we had everyone complete? Yes, we have. So the top response among this group was youth education with entrepreneurship and small business support. Second, transportation access and connections. Third, and access to internet and digital services. Thank you for your participation in this. It's really important that we understand what you want, and we'll compile this with the earlier, which I believe earlier was entrepreneurship. So those were pretty close, but we'll compile this and give full feedback after the meeting. Thanks. This slide I think is very important, and this is one I would, if I was going to take a picture and save something, this would be the one. These are all of the ways that you can contact us directly through our website, through the information center, which isn't open, but you can still, it will be open, through the newsletters, which are still being distributed. There's two new things on this slide that I think are worthwhile mentioning. The listening and learning sessions. So those will be kicking off soon, and we will want input from everyone. And then also, one that's very exciting to me is the Facebook page. So we were gifted a Facebook page from the Michigan Central Preservation Society, which had been operating this page for 11 years. And they really did a great job of being stewards for the train station and sharing lots of information and doing cleanups, and all of that content can be found on that page. So what you see in the picture on the right is what it looks like now with the new Michigan Central logo. So you can go there and communicate directly with us and see all the great work that they've done, as well as see all of the updates and work that we'll be doing in the future. I really want to say thank you to the Michigan Central Preservation Society, and we have put together a really cool and interesting video that was done by Stephen McGee, who is a Corktown resident and a renowned filmmaker. So enjoy.
Back in 2009, the Michigan Central Station was viewed by some as an eyesore. It had been neglected since 1988, and it was kind of a shell of its former self. But you could also see that the soul of the station was there. There's history in those walls, and that's not something that can be replaced. Structural history was being erased from Detroit. A similar fate was likely to come upon the Michigan Central Station if the voice from the community wasn't heard. When the city voted for an expedited demolition of the Michigan Central Station, there was an outcry from the community, but it wasn't centralized. I incorporated the Michigan Central Station Preservation Society so that we could have a nonprofit here. From there, we were able to take all that interest and direct it toward a grassroots cleanup effort. People wanted to be involved. Instead of just being spectators, they really wanted to take a hand in bringing back the Michigan Central Station. By pushing forward and doing our part to keep the grassroots energy alive, we inspired the previous owners and people with power to take action. Ford looked at the Michigan Central Station in a different way and saw how this 500,000 square foot building could be a perfect mobility center given its past.
It's incredible to think that not that long ago there was a possibility that this building would be torn down. Now we have this opportunity to create something incredibly special together.
That building is how a lot of people outside of the city of Detroit know us. So that particular structure coming back online in a way that might actually serve people is a tremendous opportunity. I feel like people have been cheated of their imaginations for what their communities can look like. So we got to get some exercises that people can engage in that broaden their concept of what could be.
I want to thank the Preservation Society for their stewardship of this incredible building over the years, and we couldn't be more excited to be the stewards for the next chapter. What we hope for is a place where the community can come and enjoy not only the past, but also the future. We want it to be an incredible forum for dialogue and a place where new voices can join the conversation as we co-create a great future together.
Hi, so as I mentioned, we're back for the final portion of the meeting, the question and answer portion. And I'm going to take the questions that have been submitted and we'll direct those to the panelists that can answer best. So let's go ahead and start that. The first question says, the railroad tracks behind the train station are a natural migration corridor for birds and butterflies. Has your landscape architect considered butterfly and pollinator gardens? I'm going to ask Rich if he could answer that question for us.
Great, thanks, Julie. A great question. We are just starting to bring on our landscape architect for our district, and as we start to work through, the plans, it's a great question. I think it's one of the great things about having these dialogues and getting these kinds of input that we can take to them and talk about this. So nothing definite has been planned yet, but again, a great question and something that we can take forward and ask as we move forward with our landscape architect. So thank you.
Great. The next question says, what are the plans for the Lincoln Brass if the third building is not going to be on that site? We live across the street from it, and that's a very important piece of the puzzle for us. I'm going to ask Mary to answer that.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Julie. It's a great question, and I should have been clearer as I walked through it. So it's still a really important site for us. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that. As you can tell, we've obviously spent a lot of time and effort getting the site ready. While the third building, because it's more about office, makes more sense over by the train station, we think that site has a lot of potential to potentially be a mixed use site with perhaps, some office, retail, and housing. We're still very early days in talking about it, but I want to assure you that we won't be moving forward without coming to you to speak to you about some of these ideas. But it's still a really important site, and we're excited about thinking through what the best options are.
Thanks for that, Mary. The next question says, speaking of our current national COVID protocols, why didn't the people who passed out flyers in the neighborhood yesterday for this meeting wear masks as they handed them to residents on their porches? So I would like to take that question. First of all, I want to apologize for that. Certainly not our intention. We do work with a nonprofit that we're really excited to work with. They've been great. And we will take your feedback to them and make sure that going forward, we follow the protocols that keep all of us safe. So again, our apologies about that. And we look forward to doing the right thing going forward. The next question says, let's see, is the Ford discount for auto purchases still available to us who live in the impact zone? Yes, that discount is very much available. If you reach out to our corktown@ford.com address, we can send you the information about that. I think I've sent a few myself this year already. So thanks a lot. Thanks for your support. The next question says, is Ford working with the city to coordinate the Michigan Central development with the Greater Corktown Framework Plan? I think we have Gabby Bruno on the line, and I'd ask Gabby to answer that if she's there.
Hi, Julie. Yep, I'm here. And we may have Kevin Trantz from the city on the line too, if he wants to chime in. But the short answer is yes. We are participating, as are many in the community, in providing input to the city on their framework plan. And I think that as much as we can, we're sharing our vision for the development with the city and asking them to do the same, just so that we stay aligned. I think there's some differences in timing, between our planning stages and the cities, but we are coordinating with them on that. And I know we're all, interested in updates, and COVID has caused delays, across the board on certain things. So, yes, we are coordinating with the city.
Great, thanks, Gabby. The next question says, okay, I like the idea of listening sessions to learn more about the Michigan Central project. Will the public have an opportunity to share ideas for listening session topics, or will Ford pick them? So we're just starting to plan the listening sessions, and that's a great question. We are looking for your feedback. We're looking for your input and what you're interested in having listening and learning conversations about. The follow-up email to all the participants on this call, as well as the one earlier today, will have an opportunity for you to provide feedback directly to that question. Let's see. This question I'm going to direct to Rich. Could there be first floor street level retail at the base of the parking garages?
Thanks, Julie. So yeah, we are in the midst of the design of the first parking deck, as we showed you earlier. And as we go through and start to understand what's happening in the total district around retail space, we are protecting space there for future. Not sure what anything would be yet, but it is in our mind and is part of our thought process right now as we move forward with the building designs.
Great, thank you. The next question, similar but a little bit different, I'll direct to Mary. Mary, any idea what retail might be going into the first floor at the train station?
Great question. So we're actually in the midst of a lot of studies looking at what retail exists in the area and what the demand could support at the train station. But we're definitely carrying forward the list and the interest that we had in some of the early meetings around what the community was looking for in retail. And so we certainly have that top of mind and want to make sure that as we think about what goes in there, clearly there'll be some food and there'll be some other types of retail. But as many of you know, retail is changing a lot, and we want to make sure that as we look at our innovation district that we're really thinking ahead of what retail could be. And we've got some exciting ideas and prospects around what that potentially might look like. And so at some point when we figure it out, we'll certainly come back to you, but I want you to know that we're certainly understanding the types of retail that you were interested in the early days.
So the last question that we have here, I will actually take that, and it's a great way to kind of wrap things up. So the question is, are there any community outreach projects specifically designated within the North Corktown area? And I would say that all of our outreach projects are intended to reach North Corktown. So thank you for your question. We're going to start that work with our learning and listening sessions that are coming up. And we would really love to hear your feedback about specific issues and things that we might be able to help with. So looking forward to that. Please check your email for a follow-up note from us and give us your direct feedback. Also, I just want to remind everyone, if you're interested in hearing more about New Lab, you can join us tomorrow at Startup Week. And I will turn it over to Mary to wrap things up. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. And I want to thank all the team members tonight who helped share some of this great information that we shared with you. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. It's really important that we have this dialogue, and while we can't have it in person, and we look forward to having one soon in person, this is, I think, a great option for at least being able to share information. And as the Information Center is also closed, I would encourage you to follow our website and some of the other social channels for updates. And like I said, I hope that we get together again really soon. And in the meantime, thank you for joining, and stay safe and healthy. Have a good evening.